Hi internet! I've wanted to make a video and talk to you for a little bit, but I've been busy being creative and I kind of, like, as much as I wanted to make the video, I've also been busy doing other stuff, and sitting down and making just a chatting video kind of seemed weird. So instead, I'm going to make a video while crocheting. We could call this a stitch and bitch, whatever you want. That's what we used to say back in the day when we went to soccer, but stitch and bitch is so easy. I'm pretty sure someone online has said it and I feel like I've heard it somewhere online. I just want to talk to you like about my life and about writing and stuff, because I talk about writing a lot on this channel and I kind of leave the sewing stuff to my mum's channel. But here's the problem. I'm not a person with one interest, and that's really annoying to me. Like, I wish I could be like that history nerd that just knows everything about history. Like, you give me a date and I can tell you what happened at that year in history, bitch. I can just like school you on things. I wish I was like just into writing and could laser focus everything into writing all the time, or just into sewing and I was really invested into it all the time, or just one type of sewing. That would be great too. Or I was really into cooking. But there is, I've never had one type of hobby. Like growing up, mom had us do all different arts and crafts, and like she and I would discover something new, so we'd do something new. I don't think there's like a crafty hobby that we haven't done. Apart from, say, maybe some of the newer things that kids are coming out these days, like slime. We haven't done slime. Have I been tempted to do slime? Yeah, for videos mainly, but nothing else. And I kind of want to like talk about that and how that will probably affect this channel. Because at the start of the year, I was so gung-ho on writing. Like, I love writing and it's amazing and it does take up a lot of my time. And don't get me wrong, I'm still thinking about everything. But every time I sit down to write something at the moment for the second draft, I got the second draft started, so I have the voice kind of down for both characters now. But rewriting writing the second draft and adding in a completely new perspective and character and storyline is like restarting the entire novel, but having all these touchstones that I have to loop back into, and it's taking up more time than I would like it to. It's also weird because it feels like a second or third draft with Freya. But when it comes to Tamara, is it Tamara? Tamara. She is definitely a first draft. And it's hard to switch gears in between the characters like that. And I can't write Freya in a way where it's not at least a second draft, because I know her so well, I know everything that happens, so I can work on her character progression and everyone else's character progression around her a lot better. But when it comes to the other main character, it's definitely a first draft. And that was a little bit not encouraging. There was a lot of stuff happening family-wise and health-wise in the family that kind of distracted me for a while. And I've been like, gotten to the point where I have a lot of questions about this world that I'm making, and I kind of have to answer them. And because I'm getting more into like historic dress and the history behind fashion, like I just have more questions every time I sit down. For example, last time I sat down and really tried to write, what the fuck would have the hairstyles have been like in, we're going for the 1600s. And I'm really having to narrow it down. I'm thinking like 1620-ish is where I'm setting it. So I went on a whole tangent there. I've done it a couple of times with the dresses and the bases. Don't get me wrong, it is my own country, so I have a little bit of free reign, but I'm also setting it in the real world, so I want to have that solid base in reality at the same time to make it plausible, because at least one country in this will be heavily influenced by Europe, like heavily, while the other one's kind of left to its own. It's more influenced in magic, so I can get away with a lot of stuff there. And that's where Freya was. And saying her name's real weird because I have to make sure I'm saying it right. And so I got used to not thinking about it, but then when it comes to the other things, I'm thinking about it a little too much, if you know what I mean. The other problem that has come in is that the first half of the year, I kind of wanted to be dedicated to working on the sewing stuff, but I didn't want to work on the sewing stuff, so I worked on writing stuff. This second quarter, I wanted to be about writing, and now it's about sewing because I'm in a real sewing jam. Like even crocheting I'm doing, I'm just feeling real creative in a physical way. They sync into each other because I have a knot. Let me undo this knot while I talk to you. I chose to do crocheting. I could have done hand sewing because I can crochet and talk at the same time. Can't really hand sew and talk at the same time yet. Like while I'm sewing, a lot of the times I'm actively thinking about stories or problems that I might have in the story, and I've been daydreaming a lot about writing, but sewing's just more cathartic. I need to do things with my hands. I've also been real into editing videos and I can get them out pretty well. I also got new glasses and actually updated my prescription for the first time in like 3 years, and I don't have scratch to shittery glasses anymore, and that really helps with seeing things, which would probably help with writing, but it also helps a lot with sewing. It helps exponentially with sewing when you can see the fucking stitches. God. And it helps with editing. And because I have like 2 YouTube channels and that's like kind of my passion project at the moment, it's real interesting. The other problem goes into like, I'd love to do like both sewing creative stuff and writing stuff as my job for the rest of my life, but I have both of them as like kind of a main focus in my life, and costuming. They're the 2 things that always rip me apart in what I want to do with my life, and that's kind of hard. So I figure if I can like ramp up this sewing stuff, get a lot of shit out while I'm feeling inspired, and make a lot of content, then that can cover me for when I don't feel like making a lot of content, and that will be nice. The other thing is, I'm about to move. Like, the other half and I have been looking at houses to move out into, and then mum and dad have to move as well. So that's about to take up a lot of time, and I don't really want to, I'm gonna struggle enough with the sewing stuff and like setting everything back up, that I want writing to be something that I can go back to then when I'm in transition and I can't get to all my sewing supplies, or I can't do this thing because I don't have the stuff that I need. I can head back to writing, which is just nice. It's a great escape too. I have a lot of excuses, like a lot of excuses as to why I'm not writing, and it just comes down to I don't feel like writing. And I struggle with sticking to things that I don't want to do at that particular time, which is why I pick up and drop a whole lot of projects. It's like a lot of the time. It was amazing. Also, this is making me keenly aware of how much I look down when I'm crocheting. Like, I can do it by feel, but I want to make sure that I'm not making any mistakes, because that's how you sometimes make some mistakes. Like just then I did the same stitch. So yeah, like that's one of my main struggles, is that I have like 101 hobbies, and you might have heard me say that before, but trust me, I have 101 fucking hobbies and interests at all time. I'm pulled in all directions. It could be an INTP thing, or just a Cassie thing, or an Aries and a Scorpio combination thing, or a Gemini moon thing. I don't know. Look, when we get down into a lot of things, I don't think it's a Slytherin thing. So, writing captures my interest in such a keen and exciting way. Sorry, I'm dealing with yarn vomit at the moment, and it's a real pain when you do, until it gets to like the actual, it's just an asshole of a way to live when you're crocheting, really. But like, yeah, writing encapsulates so much of me, but at the same time, so does sewing and any craft that I can get my fucking hands on. I don't always feel like that confident in writing because of spelling issues, because of reading difficulties or something. It's kind of the opposite when it comes to crafts and sewing. I am sometimes unnecessarily cocky, and sometimes not unnecessarily cocky. Like, I just assume I can do anything that I think I can do, and it might be like a pain in the ass, but I'll be able to do it. Take crocheting. I have picked up and dropped crocheting probably since I was like, I don't know, probably like when I was 7 the first time. I might have been younger. I'm not even sure. And I picked it up and dropped it so many times in my life, and the only time that I've finished projects is when I made these little stuffed cactuses in pots. I have them somewhere. They are so freaking cute, and I made a few of them, and they just spread out everywhere. That's the only things that I have finished. I've tried to make doilies. I can do it. I just get bored, and if it's too big of a project, I've gotten bored. I've gotten frustrated because I couldn't be loose, and then I'd have to pull it out constantly. And because my mother's a perfectionist in crocheting, she ingrained that in me, and that's a thing with a lot of the sewing craft, is like perfectionism. Her mother taught her that, she taught me it. It's a struggle, but it's what I can't accomplish in writing. So it's also probably the root of why I have issues with editing and writing, because I can pull out a project and start it again. How I did that with this current one I'm doing. This is eventually going to be a hoodie jumper thing for my boyfriend once I make more of it, but he was told he has to wait like at least 3 years before he's getting it, because that's how long it's gonna take me to finish it. But the point of me saying that I've picked it up and dropped it so many times, I don't even fucking know, is that because of that I've gotten good and I've learned the techniques over and over again, and I'm at the point the last couple of years where Mom and I would be able to work on the same project and you wouldn't be able to tell whose stitches are whose. And she's been doing it for a very long time, at least like constantly for the last 20 years. Before then as well, because she is much older than I am. I don't know if you'd be able to tell that. She's kind of my mother. When it comes to knitting, she's better than me because I refuse to knit because it bores me and I hate it and I don't want to use two things, whereas, I don't know, crocheting just seems ingrained in me at this point. When it comes to embroidery, can do it. I'm messy. I assume I'm better than I am. I'm not. When it comes to making things, like actually sewing garments together, do a lot of things. I'm gonna test all my theories on exactly what I can do over on DitzyBellzz. But I know that no matter what, I can learn how to do it, and I have an ex-seamstress near me that I can ask for questions, and if she doesn't know, hey, the internet's a thing. Also, I made this skirt that I'm wearing. I love it. It's called, I call it my Slytherin skirt. My boyfriend calls me an old lady. It's just loving, I know. Other parts of sewing I like is, say, quilting. Hence, I have all my quilting cotton behind me at the moment. And that is both easy and frustrating at the same time because it takes, okay, so when you're making, say, a garment or a dress or a skirt or something, and okay, that's not pull out worthy, you have to like measure it and fit things and all that. When you're quilting, you don't have to fit it. You just have to make sure that you made the shapes right and you're sewing them right and you're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Like other sewing, you can, it's normally like a 1/2 inch allowance on clothes and garments. But you can really make whatever seam allowance you want. It's just standard in patterns to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I don't know why I can't tell you these things. I feel more comfortable with a 1/4 inch though. It's so much easier, especially with my foot being a 1/4 inch. And I've gotten to the point as well with sewing is that I picked it up and dropped it so many times that I'm pretty good at it now. I'm not as good as I am at crocheting. And my quilting's a bit better than my garment sewing, but like this skirt that I'm wearing right now, I am so fucking proud of it. And I just made myself pajama shorts, which I probably shouldn't be as happy with them as I am, but I love them. Do I have them here? There's a big pile over here. And I just have so many things in that room that I keep wanting to do. I don't know, do you guys have that issue where like you have too many hobbies? Because the other thing I'd love to do is like get into true crime and murder and stuff, because I do love myself some true crime and murder, and did want to be a crime scene investigator for a while, especially when CSI first came out, but no, I don't want to. I love things with movies, but they don't interest me that much. Like, crime's one of those things that I love, but I'm not going to study it. Whereas I would totally study sewing and historic dress, and I have studied writing already. Well, that's a grumpy mastiff. If you get into crocheting or knitting, you're gonna have to learn how to undo knots. If you don't know how to undo knots, you better have someone near you that knows how to undo knots. I have thankfully inherited my dad's knot undoing. He's better than mum at it. Okay, so I love music, for example, and I have played instruments in the past and tried to learn them, but I just don't have a music brain. I have a singing brain, like I can harmonize with people and that sort of stuff, but when it comes down to the technical side of music, bye. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm gonna be over here doing my own thing and listening to some music, thanks. When it comes to psychology, I love the aspects of psychology. The bridesmaid personality types. Ooh, that's my jam! But I also don't have the memory for that. Like, as much as I love it, it's the same with astrology in the way that I only care about the signs I care about, and I don't really care about what I don't care about. It's a pain in the ass. Whereas cooking, like, is something that I pick up and put down that's like always going to be a side hobby, because it's also a necessity. You need food to survive. But writing, I don't know, I have a story brain, but I also have a sewing brain, because you give me 2 fabrics and a pattern idea and I can visualize how that's going to turn out. I can visualize steps that I'd need to take. I can look at a pattern and kind of visualize it in 3D. Sometimes, not all the time. I can visually deconstruct things, just like I can like deconstruct a story, and I'm learning like all the plot points and things and character breakdowns, which is really annoying when you're trying to get into a TV show, and that's why you get bored with TV shows, because they're too repetitive. And you can tell me they're not, but Game of Thrones is the only one that's not, and that's because of J.R.R. Martin. When it comes to writing, I don't have to do it this one specific way for it to be right. When it comes to sewing, there are many arguments on if one specific way is always right, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not. Like my Halloween quilt that I made, I had fabrics and then I came up with an idea. A lot of the times, like, I would rather fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to quilting, whereas my grandmother and auntie would buy like a collection and make that collection into something, or they would buy like made up pattern and the fabric that goes with it and make that. I want to choose my own fabrics. I am very interested in that sort of stuff, in like a mild chaos when I'm sewing, and I also have a mild chaos when I'm writing. Cooking, I can be the same way, but certain things of cooking you have to do a certain way, otherwise it is wrong. It is definitely wrong because it's disgusting. I don't know, maybe it's just like, I would never become a chef. That doesn't interest me. But becoming a writer and being a seamstress or quilting for the rest of my life interests me. Because if I make a career out of sewing and being crafty, I have writing as a hobby that I can do on the side. If I have a career of writing, I have the sewing stuff I can do on the side. Or I could do both at the same time somehow and try and make enough time in my day to also do YouTube, because YouTube is once again a reoccurring hobby in my life that I've almost got the brain for. It makes sense to me. It's something I like to talk to the camera, and I like to film things, and I like to share things with people and have like an internet community. But the problem is I also run away from communities a lot. So yeah, that's kind of like, I don't know, my stitch and bitchin'. I'll finish this row and then I have to go make dinner, which is a very easy dinner, and probably focus more on this moving stuff. But mainly I'll probably like end up sewing tonight. I kind of also want to make a video of going through the Myers-Briggs personality type test and seeing if I still am in fact an INTP. And I want to know, when it comes to Hogwarts houses, what an INTP is. Because I've heard a few things and a few people say that like the Hogwarts sorting hat test is based on the Myers-Briggs personality type test. Although I don't believe that like you're born an INTP or you're born a Slytherin, and then like as you grow up you'll always identify with Slytherin traits or INTP things. I like that ration of like picking up on people's personality types and being like, yeah, that does fit within this trait and within this personality, so that's how I'll deal with things or deal with people. And it's the same with astrology, but astrology is technically something you're born into, which is quite boring. Things don't change. Life's boring. Can I just say as well that like crocheting is such a natural state for me that when I was playing pool the other week with friends, I kept using having my hand in a way with the pool cue that is because of how I hold my wool and keep the tension on it over here, and I found that quite interesting. But also this now makes sense as to why I had issues with writing. So maybe I did learn to crochet when I was younger, or it was just born innately in me and I'm a crocheting goddess. No, I really like, it takes too much time. So I hope that makes sense and you guys enjoyed the stitching and bitching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.